Any health-related information on the following show provides general information only. Content presented on any show by any host or guest should not be substituted for a doctor's advice. Always consult your physician before beginning any new diet, exercise, or treatment program.
Welcome to Accelerated Health with Sara Banta. I'm a wife, mom of 3, and an NANP certified supplement professional, but that's not all. I'm also the founder of the most innovative health supplement company, awarded 4 years in a row, Accelerated Health Products, a brand offering innovative natural scalar enhanced supplements to optimize your health. And this podcast isn't just a source of information, we're a community. We're all here to learn and grow on our health journeys, regardless of where you are today. And this podcast is the springboard to learning, and Telegram, my group coaching, is where we continue learning together. You can ask your questions. I post tips and tools to deepen your health and to keep you moving forward. That's the goal. And so here's what you can expect. New episodes every Monday and Wednesday with in-depth health discussions and expert guests, hot topics that are in the news every Friday to keep things fun. And then, of course, followed up with the free group coaching. And all of the details are on my website at SaraBantaHealth.com. Have you thought about detoxing, but you're worried if it's too much, or you're worried about those detox flu symptoms? You don't want to be put on a juice cleanse? Well, I've created over 10 unique, easy detox cleanse programs, from just getting pooping with the colon cleanse, to the parasite or the candida cleanse, the bladder cleanse, the liver flush cleanse that you need at least 4 times a year. And the big one, the accelerated diet cleanse, which resets your weight loss goals, your brain, your gut, your hormones, all the things. You can take my detox quiz at SaraBantaHealth.com to find out which one's right for you. Maybe you're not ready for a detox. Maybe you just want to start with 1, 2, 3 supplements and you don't know where to start. If you complete my health goals form on the website, I will personally put together a protocol for you. Just by taking a few steps forward with your health, you will change your life. The difference is I'm here every step of the way. Today, I'm so excited. We've got a guest that talks about things that we need to be doing on a daily basis, and we can't stop doing it, called breath. We've got to breathe, but some of us don't even know how to breathe. Ed Harrold is back, and such a great conversation last time, Ed. And today, we're not just talking about breath. We're talking about how aligning our brain, our heart, and our gut. And it's so funny that we're having this conversation. You know, in the beginning, I said I'm a mom and a wife, but I'm also a daughter. And my dad he's a go-getter. He's ADD. He has a hard time breathing. And I had this conversation with him. I said, Dad, I know asking you to meditate is way too much because your mind's going way too fast. I said, have you thought about breathing and doing breath work and counting your breath and counting while you're breathing? And he goes, I've heard about that, but I don't know anything about it. And we take for granted that we have to breathe all day, but we're not doing it right. And then we get into these modes of stress, and that stress causes leaky gut. The stress literally makes your brain not work. You lose your creativity. You lose all of the fun functionality, and you're in this survival mode. And your heart, is pounding, and your resting heart rate will go up, your HRV goes down, and we know that's connected to cardiovascular health and shortening our lifespan and all of these things. So it's not just about living a better quality of life and managing the stress, but it's actually doing harm to our physical health. So super excited to get into this topic. And where do we start with these 3 pillars of the brain, the heart, and the gut?
Well, thank you for having me again. You're doing great work, Sara, and you're helping so many people, reclaim their life. And, one of the big ways we can help people reclaim their life is start to slow down your inhale and follow the inhale down into the belly like we were breathing when we were a young child, when we were completely in the moment. We were present. We could let things slide that didn't go our way. And we were just happy just to be in a body. And our brain knows how we were breathing when we were a youngster before our ego developed. And the brain also goes into these softer brainwave patterns of alpha and theta states twice a day, once when we get up and at the end of the day when we go to sleep. So I think it all begins with everybody just connecting back with the fact that you can control your breathing. And if you don't want to control your breathing, your autonomic nervous system, which is a genius at self-regulation, will breathe for you based on the quality of your thought. So if your thought is open and loving and grounded and centered, your breath is going to be slow, steady, rhythmic. Your heart rate variability score is going to be up. Your blood pressure is down. You're going to be creative. It's going to be good being you. And if the autonomic nervous system picks up some sort of negativity or resistance or fear or insecurity, it's going to fight like it's a physical intruder coming into the room to hurt you. It doesn't know the difference. Watching our mind like a hawk is a really good place to start. And, applying slower inhales to your life and begin to notice, do I have a greater command over my choosing mind, my perception, how I'm showing up in this moment?
Interesting. So what happens because we are in this stressed world, and I'm a mom. I've got 3 older kids. And as the preschool teacher said, little kids, little problems, big kids, big problems. So the kids aren't any less stressful, even though I'm not changing diapers. I've got aging parents. I've got a business. I've got a husband. Even me with all of the clean eating and the supplements and the diet and all that stuff, I've got health issues or challenges. We all do. We're living in this modern toxic world, which is stress on the body. We're not even just talking about financial stress and spousal stress. We're talking about invaders, parasites, viruses, the toxins that are coming in that stress the body. So let's dive into the 3 pillars specifically, and starting with the brain. So what happens to the brain when we're stressed and we lose, yes, we go into survival mode and we lose that creativity, but what else happens in that brain?
So when the brain senses, the respiratory centers of the brain, when they begin to sense that the exhale is getting shorter than the inhale, they begin to organize a attack or defend or freeze mode in regard to how you're going to show up in the present moment. It senses threat. So as soon as our exhale starts to get shorter, we're going to start to become toxic with higher levels of CO2 in our bloodstream, in our body. Our heart rate's going to go up. Our blood pressure is going to go up. And the 2 prefrontal cortexes, which are the most awake area of our brain, turn off. And then we immediately go to the back of the brain, the small brain, the cerebellum, with all our stored events. And this will present an opportunity. Something has happened. There'll be an old program that'll come up, and we'll just be repeating the same habit over and over again. We're basically asleep with our eyes open. And depending on the level of threat and the level of heart rate, there's something in your brain, this very, very old brain part called your HPA axis. And this is your hypothalamus, your pituitary gland, and your adrenals. And when this fires up, the amygdala is fired, all learning from the event that you're in will stop. The brain, why should we learn something new? We're going to die. You're not going to need to learn any new skills. So at that point, digestion stops. So when digestion stops, all that energy that you're using in your gut to digest, eliminate, and assimilate your food properly then shoots up to the brain to organize some sort of grand strategy to take on this intruder. Now, this intruder is an illusion. There is no real danger of death. There is no bear in the room that's going to hurt you, but the brain doesn't know the difference. So the idea here in the brain is when stress comes your way, remember everything outside of you, nothing can hurt you outside of you. without your permission. You have to acquiesce and give your power to it, or it has no power over you. So notice what's going on outside of you. No one can control my mood without my permission, and I never give that away. I want to remain in command of myself from the inside out. So when the brain begins to fire off these signals, how do we satiate that adrenaline, that sympathetic action that's shutting off everything, immunity, digestion? We're weakening ourselves. The first thing you do is you push back against it by slowing down your inhale. And adding parasympathetic qualities of a slower inhale begins to allow the brain to take this real fast message and slow it down. And as the movie slows down, then your mind can go into that and readjust the players based on a new awareness around an old problem. If you notice, every time you're stressed, it's not anything new. It's something that's already happened that has revealed his or her ugly head again. So outside, don't ever give your power away. Inside, when things start to go fast, it's almost like you're drowning out of water. Okay. So you want to stabilize the brain and the respiratory centers of the brain by slowing down your inhale.
So is this why, depending on your traumas in the past, you are going to react in a certain way different than someone else due to their different post-traumatic issues, right? So we're all just replaying what we've experienced before, but it could be different. However, the physiological response is the same within each body. And you mentioned the HPA axis. I talk a lot about thyroid health and metabolism. Well, the HPT axis, the hypothalamus pituitary thyroid axis, controls the HPA axis, or they play with each other. So if the HPA axis is shooting up, guess what is shooting down? Your metabolism, weight gain goes up, because we're in survival mode and we need to protect our organs and layer on fat around our belly to protect us from that tiger that's coming, because we don't know that it's just a financial stressor. It could be a tiger. So, right, the body's reacting to any stressor in that same response.
Yeah. So the idea here is to stay awake. Do not fall asleep with your eyes open. You have power to rewire your story, to transmute whatever that stressor is. If I traced it back far enough, it would be fear. It would be a sense of lack. I'm not good enough. Somebody else is better. Joe always beats me. You're out in front of your skis. The idea is to get back into your body, center yourself, ground yourself. This is a habit that you can start to bring to your mindset. Okay, something's happened. I've been triggered. Okay, I have a step 1, step 2, step 3, so that I don't have to acquiesce to that particular thought thread anymore.
Right. And you mentioned the gut. This is why, if you're under a stressed experience, and I was just talking to my friend who has family in the Ukraine, and obviously that's stressful. When she goes through those periods of time and they're bombing her hometown, and she gets extremely constipated, she can't eat, digestion shuts off because the body doesn't need to focus on that. There's a reason that every religion prays before they eat, because we're taking a moment to switch into that rest and digest. And I'll be running around going from work to then cooking food and getting it on the table for my family. And I'm not thinking about even being hungry until I sit down and I take a moment and I rest and digest to get myself into that mode, because it's like, okay, now I can focus on digestion. Now I've taken down the stress level and I'm in the mode of, this is what I'm doing for my body. Another reason you should never eat in the car, or, as you're racing between practice and school with your kids or whatever, that's not when you need to focus on eating. You want to give your body that time and the value of taking a moment, appreciating food, appreciating it, nourishing your body, because the gut isn't going to assimilate the nutrients if it's all stressed out. So let's get into the gut a little more with what happens from that stress state and then when you switch into the parasympathetic state.
Yeah. So everything in your body is intelligent. You've got 50 trillion cells. Each one of them has a brain. So events occur. Some we have control of, some we don't. But you can deal with these events so much easier with a slower, longer inhale. Most of the time you're breathing really shallow. It's more anaerobic breathing. These muscles that are doing this are like sprinting, and then if you slow the breathing down, now it's become very anaerobic, like you're lifting weights. So now this diaphragm muscle, these intercostals, these scalenes, now they're feeling the resistance of weight with a slower breath. So not only do you have strong muscles of inhale, but they're also very flexible, can go very fast. So when you slow down that inhale, what happens? Well, you straighten your spine. Notice the level of intellect that you have when your spine is straight. Notice the level of intellect that you have when your spine is rounded. Mm-hmm. It's not even you. It's an imposter. It's the substitute teacher. It's certainly not the best version of yourself. So as soon as you begin to slow the inhale down, you will notice your spine become straight. Your chest has the ability to expand more on the inhale and bring more relaxed energy into your lungs, which is going to facilitate this downward thrust of energy into your gastrointestinal organs, which basically are your entire energy system in regard to you being you. Now, the energy, your capacity to do what you need to do. You need a large supply of energy on reserve for you to get through your day. And if you deplete this energy, well, you can do that, but you can't sleep at night because your brain thinks that you are in danger because there's not enough energy on reserve. So simply what we're speaking of this whole podcast so far, slowing down your inhale is the first cue to humans that there is another version of yourself that's trying to get to the surface of your mind to interact with your thought forms. As your spine straightens on the inhale, it's impossible. If you inhale through your nose, it's impossible not to have a straight spine for you at that particular moment of your life. Why do you want a straight spine? Because then there's less stress on your physiology to complete whatever task it needs to do at that particular moment of your life. And when there's less stress on your physiology, guess what? Then you can control your thoughts because you're the CEO of you. So on that inhale going down, the spine comes straight. Respiration improves. So what's the first thing that happens when respiration improves? Your digestion, elimination, and assimilation improves. So not only are you detoxifying yourself more efficiently, you're also assimilating the energy faster up into your ascending colon and your liver and gallbladder. So you have more energy. What does that mean? Well, it means very simply that there's less inflammation in your organs. You're oxygenating yourself more efficiently. There's a lightness to you in the feeling world. How you can't deny feeling. Okay, you can deny thoughts. But feelings are a little trickier. And when we can control our emotional state and come into emotional mastery with strong digestion, elimination, and assimilation, we become instantaneously more neuroplastic in our choosing mind.
So there's a guy named Jefferson Fisher. And if you are on social media or watch any of the big podcasts, you've heard him, and he talks about how to have a conversation, how to have a better conversation, how to handle an argument or someone belittling you or talking to a narcissist or what have you. His one of his biggest pieces of advice is have your first word be your breath. And I don't think he even realizes why it works. Because as you're breathing, as I'm fired up and I want to defend my point against whoever I'm arguing with, and I take a breath, it's calming my system down. It's letting me actually gather my thoughts in a more organized, creative way. and I'm going to speak in a way that's more calm, that's going to be received by the other person in a much more effective way than if I were just to blurt out my defense. But as you're breathing and you're giving space in that argument, you're also in a better physical state to handle a more logical conversation. And like I said, I don't even think he realizes why it works and why he's promoting this, but what it does to your physiology in giving you more control over what your thoughts are. It's not going back to that reptilian survival brain. It's actually in your more thoughtful, advanced brain that you're able to have this conversation. So the other thing you touched on, and I wanted to get back to, is you mentioned the theta state. When you go to bed and when you wake up, and correct me if I'm wrong, your brain is in that theta state just twice a day.
Right.
And I've heard that this is the state, it's almost like a hypnosis state.
Yeah.
And when you do hypnosis, you're in the theta, the brain waves, where you can make changes because 97% of your thoughts are the same as they were yesterday unless you actively change them. And during this period of being in theta state is when you can most productively or effectively change your thought patterns. Mm-hmm. So is this correct? Would you say that this is because you're in that parasympathetic mode at an even deeper level?
Well, depending on your psychological makeup, when you're in the beta brain, you're going to want to be right.
Right.
I will prove you wrong, and nothing ever gets solved, everybody's going to be right. Nobody's ever wrong. But as you go down into the alpha state a little slower, the question becomes, do I want to be right or do I want to be happy? Mm-hmm. And then I have the ability to kind of, it's okay. It's not my shit. It's not my stuff. Whatever, it's fine. Let's just go on. And then right below the alpha state, you have this theta brainwave pattern. Now, getting adults to stay in this brainwave pattern without falling asleep is very challenging. Mm-hmm. Most of us are exhausted from lifestyle. Our body's very toxic. Our immunity is weak. We have very low energy, and we've created a mental state of just surviving. Once a month you might feel like you're thriving, but you've trained yourself to live exhausted. That's you. Be accountable. Be responsible to that. And from this moment on in your life, start to listen to what Sara's saying. Start to connect with your breath and bring some vibrancy and vitality back to yourself so that you can stay awake longer in the slower brainwave patterns of theta, which are just above the delta waves where you go unconscious. Now, when you were a young child, before your ego developed, before your sense of self and boundaries and guardrails and make my mark in the world, you lived in the theta state the whole time. Mm-hmm. And this is designed so that your brain adapts to the environment that you're in, makes mental notes, and learns constantly about the environment that you're in to protect you in the future. And then as your ego develops, you start to go into the alpha state, and then you're finally in the beta state when you're in the full-on educational system of math and science and English. So that's the beta brain. So what I call the bookends is the first 5 minutes of the day and the last 5 minutes of the day. So the first 5 minutes of the day, I'm coming out of the delta waves. I open my eyes, and rather than think about what I want to do or what I have to do today, you're in the theta state right there. That's the most creative state that you're going to be in. But you blow right through it. You go to alpha, you run to the bathroom and get a cup of coffee, and then you're off and running.
Or you grab your phone, right?
That's another friend. The same thing happens at the end of the day. Okay, you go from beta, you lie down, you go into alpha, you take a few breaths, you're in theta, and you're in like this, I'm not fully awake, I'm not fully asleep, and then boom, you go into delta. The idea is, first off, we were thrown off young as kids. Okay, as soon as we closed our eyes at night and mommy and daddy came in, it was like, fall asleep quickly. You're going to be a good girl. You're going to be a good boy. The idea is when you close your eyes, wake up. Do not fall asleep right away. Mm-hmm. Enjoy the process of either winding up or unwinding. This is a major place where you can find transformational states of mental states that are causing you pain, and you can see that they're camouflaging strength. Because in the theta state, there is no ego self. There is no gatekeeper saying, we think this way about him. He is bad or she is bad. There is none of that in the theta state. Any emotion can be fully thought there without the baggage of what you brought into that emotion from years of thinking it that way. So the theta state, all of humanity could shift in a week if we could stay awake a few seconds longer in that theta state when we're going to sleep, and not rushing into your day feeling like you're a bum if you're just going to hang out in bed for 5 or 10 more seconds in that theta state where everything gets reprogrammed into a more beneficial way to you being you.
So I have practiced this and experimented with this, where even on a very stressful day where I'm like, oh God, nothing went my way, and laying in bed, I will just lay there, like you're saying, with my eyes closed, and I will count the blessings from the day.
Thank
and
you.
I will see the silver linings in the challenges that I went through. I will turn it around and go, okay, what did I learn from this? Because every challenge, and I tell my kids this all the time, every challenge is to strengthen your muscles to be able to be stronger and more fierce in what is coming, because God only gives you, things that he will prepare you for what's to come. And you need to use these life experiences. Life is not supposed to be easy. Right. I love when people always say, oh, I just want to work all these years, then I'm going to retire and travel to Hawaii and across the world. And life is going to be perfect. Well, no, you've got aches and pains and health issues, and that's not the way life works. So then the other thing is, just like you're saying, waking up without an alarm. I have this dog that kind of like paws at me, so she's my alarm. But I'll just lay there and I'll imagine what my day is going to be like, what I want it to be like, how smooth it's going to go. I'm not going to stress. Everything's going to be in alignment. It will be full of abundance and positivity. And I envision myself doing it without stress. Now, does it work 100% of the time? No, but does it help my day go a lot better than it would if I didn't do that? Versus jumping out of bed, like you're saying, seeing a notification on my phone that drives, stress through my heart and gets my heart going, before I even have my cup of coffee, that will make you get off on the wrong foot regardless of how the rest of your day is supposed to be. And we're in a world now where I would say 90% of children, especially, and adults, maybe to a little bit of a lesser extent, are suffering from anxiety, depression, ADHD, brain fog, all of the things. And it's because they're not eating right. We know that, but they're not sleeping, and they're stressed, and they're in this reactive mode to social media or the news or other people's inputs. And like you're saying, nothing can hurt us outside of us. And when you focus on that, and that's something I'm going to take away from today with what you just said, is that even when I'm stressed or I'm getting hit with something from the outside, nothing can hurt me outside of me. And I'm in control. So this is so powerful, and it's free. That's the thing that's so amazing, is that it's free and you get back that control. This needs to be taught to all of our children, because there's been articles in the news, even at the governmental level with RFK, talking about we need to relook at the handing out ADHD medication and antidepressants like they're candy. Not that there's not a place for them, but the overexposure of it, that's a parent's just first response is, let's put our kid on drugs and not look at the other factors. And give them the tools that they can help self-soothe and cope in a more healthy manner. So I just said a whole bunch of stuff. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
Well, first of all, I just heard so much gratitude, in your message. And, where is the gratitude absent in my life? Could I just pause for a moment and take a breath and, notice where there isn't gratitude? And, without taking it personal, just notice that that's not for me. Gratitude, the great part about gratitude is that I can forgive myself there too. These aren't just woo-woo words. Like when you say, I'm grateful or I have gratitude, every cell is kind of like, yeah, I kind of like that. I feel good about myself. And we're talking about the gut, we're talking about the heart, we're talking about the brain. Well, all of that is mediated through your breathing. There's as many ways to breathe as there is stars in the sky when you look up at night. That's how technical it can become. But at the end of the day, I don't know what's going to happen, but I know one thing: stress is not going to go away. So I have to find tools that I can interact with in my own physiology and psychology that helps me not move into the negative forms of the stress and use the stress in a healthy way to evolve my skill sets rather than the stress steal precious time from me on earth.
Yes. And we talked about the brain, we talked about the gut, but we didn't really talk about the heart. And I've heard people say when they're in these overstressed states that they become numb. They become numb to emotion.
Yes.
They become numb to their relationships and how they feel. And there's this emotional shutdown. And we want to protect our hearts, guard our hearts, but we also want to open our hearts, which is it's a tricky balance, especially for someone like me who's an empath, and I can be taken advantage of because I feel so much. But then you have the other type of person that is very guarded and not emotional at all. But in general, if you're stressed out, your heart, your emotions are going to shut down because we're in survival mode. We need to protect ourselves. We need to focus on running away from that tiger. There's no room for emotions. So let's talk about what stress does to the heart.
Well, there's the physical heart, there's the mental heart, the thinking heart, there's the feeling heart, and then there is the divine heart. Just to simplify 4 pillars of where we could kind of navigate into this field. Your physical heart gets all of its potential power from inspiratory and expiratory muscle strength and flexibility, range of motion. So your muscles of inhale and your muscles of exhale are the primary nuclear power plant that's going to feed your heart's 4 pumps in regard to circulating fluids and gases inside your body. So if you can learn some simple techniques in regard to strengthening your muscles of inhale, strengthening your muscles of exhale, right there, you're helping your physical heart remain in balance so that you're taking less heartbeats per day. You're in the longevity state in the cardiovascular world. So thinking about how I can improve my breathing function to take negative pressure off my heart and then to free my heart so that it can think freely. Now, when we talk about the thinking heart, every time I say to myself, I'm not good enough, or I doubt myself, or something negative, judging, I break my heart. My heart doesn't even know that fear exists, but my ego keeps trying to bring it into my heart. My heart just all day long just keeps rejecting it. It's like you cannot think a fearful thought in your heart. It's impossible, because your heart is your most courageous warrior to give you the life that you so richly desire. But we always try to do it with our head first. And sometimes we're successful, sometimes we're not. Everybody's different. But this is where we go to get the truth. And if you speak English, your heart speaks English. It doesn't speak French. The heart also speaks in 2 or 3 words at a time because it knows you're busy being you. So it knows it only has your attention for a split second. So if you need a quick answer or a quick question, if you go to your heart, notice there's only 3 or 4 words there, and instantaneously it's like, oh my God, it's been there the whole time. Where the head's got you running around the whole earth looking for the answer. So from the physiological standpoint, increase your relationship to your muscles of inhale and exhale, to your thinking mind. Never doubt yourself when you're in your heart, because you break your own heart. Your heart doesn't even know failure exists. Your heart only understands lessons, right? And then these empathets, these feeling heart folks, God love them, because they trust everything is going to work out for the best possible. It's like Candide, the old Broadway play. Everything is going to work out for the best possible solutions. And we need more people like that, trusting the feeling that comes up regardless of external people, places, and things that we have no control of. It's important to trust that the way you see it right now through your heart is exactly the way you're supposed to see it. And don't waver on that, because that's coming from the deeper part that science really doesn't understand, the spiritual heart, the divine heart, the Christ heart. And it's hard to describe the Christ heart in an ego-driven mind, because I've only seen little glimpses of my Christ heart.
Mm-hmm.
But just getting back to the heart, it really is our secret weapon. And we're trying to fix so much with the brain, and we become a slave to our intellect, when I think the intellect was there to serve the heart, not the other way around.
Gosh, I love this. I mean, it just warms my heart to even just listen to you talk about it, and the trusting of your own intuition and feeling in the heart. And the brain can just be going like this. But what's so interesting is I've got a few friends who are type A personalities. They work out like fiends. They're in great shape, right? So, but their heart rate variability is low on their Oura ring. And correct me if I'm wrong, it's not that they can't get their heart rate up high enough during their workouts, but they can't bring it low enough during the day there, because they're always in a stressed state. So your HRV is not just about your health during that workout, but it's how you can come down and be in a more relaxed, maybe theta state, or maybe just an alpha state in a lower level. Am I saying that correctly?
I think you've tapped into almost like an epidemic here in America, where I must create pain in my body so that maybe at a future point later in the day I can feel pleasure.
Mm-hmm.
What is that actually saying? It says that I am weak. I have something to prove. I am not worthy. I lack something. Your brain doesn't know the difference. So wherever you're causing pain in your body, your brain is being wired that you will not have any value if you can't create pain and fight with this pain. The pain is also going to create disease. It's going to create chronic disease, and it's probably going to create mental disease or an early death. So my thing would be with folks, you go to the gym to communicate with yourself. Your body tells you a story, and the idea is to access that story, harness the emotion of that story, and transform it during the movements. It's not to go there and make sure that I get 10 or be better than the last time I came in. The idea is longevity. Go to the gym to fall in love with yourself again and again and again, not create painful states and overcome those painful states like somehow that gives you street cred.
Yeah.
It's not what you see in the mirror. It's what you see when you close your eyes. It matters.
And what's so funny is in the stress state during the day after the gym, if you're stressed, your body's going to eat away at your muscles that you just tried to build, and it's actually going to store fat because it needs to survive from the tiger that's coming after you.
Right.
So there's, our society is so backwards, and they're fighting against themselves because they're doing the exact opposite of what they're going for. And I'm talking to myself, Ed. I'm not, I'm no different than everyone else. I can get into that mode. I actually had someone tell me at one point saying, Sarah, you're addicted to being overwhelmed. I go, oh gosh, I think I am. Like, I get almost nervous if I don't have enough to do that day. And that's something that I'm working on myself. And, I've got a health situation, a challenge that gets flared up if I'm too stressed right now. And it's almost like God's teaching me, Sarah, you got to calm down. You got to relax. You got to get back into that parasympathetic mode to take care of you and not let these outside forces control your thoughts, your heart, and your gut. So, right?
I think,
Ed, go ahead.
One thing that I really have been playing with recently is what's going on in the human fascia. And the human fascia is such an amazing mechanism with deep memory. And, how can we get into our self-care routine and be in things long enough where we're not just working the muscles, but we're releasing fascia and helping the DNA and RNA where we are out of balance at a joint, muscle, bone, organ, go back to where it was prior to that stressor or prior to that injury. So I think a lot of the stress that we're picking up today from the external world is really affecting our fascia. And I don't know how much science there is behind that, but I have a theory on it. But I think if we can just slow down our exercise routine and not just fire the muscles, but be in it long enough to fire your fascia. Notice what comes up for you in the memories of whatever movement you're doing or whatever weights or, yoga, whatever it may be, Eastern or Western technique. Be in it long enough so the fascia has a chance to reveal some of its story to you, and then consciously breathe and transform that.
So every organ, and I'm assuming fascia, holds emotion. Your liver holds your frustration and anger, and kidneys hold fear. And, so this only makes sense. And as anyone's doing any sort of detox, whether it's through exercise or supplements or diet, you're going to relive old emotions. So beware, but you're also going to be able to release them. Ed, we are out of time, but I want to make sure before we go, you teach people just one simple trick on breath to get control of the brain, the heart, and the gut.
So being mindful of this thoracic diaphragm muscle, it's a horizontal muscle, and when you inhale, it vertically presses down. It straightens your spine. It activates your enteric nervous system where the serotonin and dopamine is, and only breathing into the center of your chest, only accessing the lower lobes of your lungs, which have parasympathetic nerve endings, hemoglobin, oxygen rich. So this lower lobes of your lungs is really the key to unlocking longevity. So just breathing as slowly as you can into the upper abdomen and the middle chest. And then once you get to here, stop. Close your eyes and just go to the center of your head. And when that voice in the center of the head says, I like me, then just exhale slowly through your nose, your abdominal muscles or your exhale muscles. And then at the exhale, hold the breath out a couple seconds, go back to the center of the head. You'll hear that voice right above your brainstem. I like me. And that's good enough for me. 3 to 5 rounds, a few times a day.
I love it. I love it. I will be doing that today. Thank you, Ed. And where can people find you? How can they work with you?
They can get me at www.edharrold, that's 2Rs.com. There's all sorts of different stuff on the website, trainings, virtual trainings that are in the can. I work with everybody on the planet. It doesn't matter whether you're a CEO or living out of your car, whatever it may be, we are going to make it work for you. I've been in the game a long time, and I think the functional breathing is something that we all can start to practice a little bit more to make ourselves a little happier and lighter, and also the community and people around us.
I love it. And not to mention you work with elite athletes and for performance. So it's not just performance in a sport, but performance in life. So you are definitely extremely valuable. And I'm so happy to have had you back on, because I know that I learned so much today, and I can say that my day, I will be walking a little lighter and a little happier and definitely less stressed. And my gut is going to love the food that I eat because it's going to be in the parasympathetic mode. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Sarah. Have a great day.
Gosh, I don't know about you, but I'm breathing deeper. I'm in a happier state. I'm more relaxed, and I definitely have some things I'm going to work on. And we're all seeking deeper balance, right? And I am too. And it's that combination or the connection between the gut, the brain, the detox systems throughout the body. And we have to be detoxing. We have to lower our stress. There's so many things we're fighting against in this modern world. And I just want to mention 2 supplements that can help you with this. Number 1, Acceleradine iodine, and number 2 is the accelerated liver care. And you may think, oh, well, how does iodine help with the gut? But it does help with the brain. It is known as the number 1 spiritual element. It is also the number 1 supplement for depression. And there's a reason. Thyroid is the master endocrine gland. Remember, we talked about the thyroid controls the adrenals. And if your thyroid sees a threat, it's going to shut down. If your thyroid needs that T4 and T3 hormones, and those comprise of tyrosine and 3 and 4 molecules of iodine. So it is needed for boosting that thyroid function, which powers digestion and metabolism and brain energy. If your thyroid's low, your digestion's sluggish, your constipation's going to happen, you're retaining water in your fingers and toes, you have edema, your hair's falling out. Why is your hair falling out? Because if you're in survival mode, body doesn't care what you look like. It's going to let go of the nails and the hair. That's first, right? Well, it also is detoxifying the fluoride from your brain, from your pineal gland. And this is your higher self. How are we supposed to think and be creative when we don't have juice to our brain? Increasing that ATP, that cellular energy in the brain. Well, that comes from iodine. Inside the cell, the iodine is increasing that ATP per mitochondria in the brain and the body, increases fat oxidation and energy in the gym and all of those things too, but in the brain. And it also helps your nervous system, but it also improves the microbiome resilience. Iodine levels naturally discourage pathogenic bacteria, parasites, viruses. It is anti all of those things. So it's killing things off throughout your body and your brain. It sharpens your focus, supports that emotional balance. You'll feel happier. You'll feel less anxious, less depressed. You'll have more focus in school and at work. All of the things that make you more stressed, it is going to combat. So Acceleradine iodine is working on your brain, your heart, and your gut, because also if your thyroid's sluggish from low iodine, that affects your heart health. If your thyroid's sluggish, you have increased cholesterol. You're not detoxifying very well. Your liver's not doing its job. And then we talk about the liver. So our livers are under attack. Processed foods, spiked protein, the microplastics, the halogens, the xenoestrogens, all of those things are loading our livers up. Our livers affect your estrogen dominance that you might be suffering from, your PMS symptoms, your fertility, and your menopausal symptoms at every stage of your life. And even in men, having those man boobs, not being able to get rid of the belly fat, that is all connected to your liver. You can't assimilate your proteins and your fats if your liver's not working. Well, accelerated liver care is addressing all of it. It is 13 very rare, very specific herbs found from around the globe, only the very best quality that works synergistically, not just to detox your liver, but to restore it, help with the cleansing, help with the fat and the protein assimilation. You detox without the detox flu symptoms. It clears out that bile sludge, the estrogens, heavy metals, pathogens, eases gut inflammation, helps with the digestion and elimination. That bile flow is going to improve, which will help better absorption of nutrients, more regular bowel movements, things that are going to come out of you you've never seen before. Helps with the hormonal balance. Your hormones are connected to your liver. So don't just go out and get your bioidentical hormones. Let's first address your thyroid and your liver, right? The liver is where you store your frustration and your anger. As you're cleansing your liver, you're going to let go of those things that cause that stress to go up and cause you not to breathe. So these two supplements are game changers when we're talking about the gut, the brain, and the heart health and helping with that stress level. It's a multi-layered process. We aren't just very simple beings where we can take one supplement. That's not how it works. So make sure you check out those two supplements. Make sure you check out Ed. I loved this conversation. Comment below. Tell me what you took away from it. Are you having a hard time breathing? Are you feeling that stress is shutting down your creativity and ability to do what you're meant to do? Well, leave me a comment. I'd love to hear from you. And thanks for listening. Our discussion does not have to stop here. I'm here to help. If you're lost in that supplement world, you can start by getting your free supplement protocol at SaraBantaHealth.com. Follow me on social media at Accelerated Health Products and join the free group coaching. There's no downside. I answer your questions. I post insights daily to keep you moving forward each and every day. You can listen anywhere. Find this podcast at Accelerated Health with Sara Banta on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, E360, Amazon, iHeartRadio, and over 100 different platforms. Share this podcast with your friends and family. We're all stressed. We all need a little reminder to breathe. We think we're breathing. We're not. And you can also use coupon code podcast10 to get 10% off site-wide. Remember, I'm live every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, so join me next time for more ways to unlock your health potential.